Hi everybody, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the Judicial Service Commission channel. I'm Lonan Kamwesiga. I am a legal officer at the Judicial Service Commission. As always, we bring you a lot of interesting topics, everything about the law, legal, our courts, and what Judicial Service Commission is about. Today, I have somebody with me. So I will let her introduce herself and the topic she's prepared for us today.
Thank you, Lona, for hosting me today. Hi, everyone. My name is Patra Linda. I'm a legal officer at the Judicial Service Commission. I'll be talking about the JLOS institutions and the services that they render. I know most of us have seen the word JLOS somewhere on our way or in certain offices, certain badges, and probably we do not know what this means. So JLOS institutions, we've seen the word JLOS, most of us, probably in certain offices that we've entered, or on our way, we've seen the badge or the statement on cars, on banners, and probably we do not know what it means. But today we'll be able to unpack and understand what JLOS means. And to start it off, JLOS is the short form of Justice, Law and Order sector. It is an umbrella of all government institutions that have closely linked mandates towards attaining administration of justice. So today we'll be talking about the institutions under JLOS and the services that each institution renders. Yes, thank you so much.
What do you mean when you say administration of justice?
Okay, so administration of justice is a very complex word in itself, but we can always break it down by starting with the simpler words, and then we'll get the definition at the end of the day. We'll first look at justice itself. What do we mean when we say justice? Justice is the fairness in which a person is treated in attaining or resolving disputes. That is what justice means. The fairness in which you are treated in a society. And then administration. What does administration mean? Administration really means that what are the procedures or systems in place for someone to be able to attain fairness. So administration of justice, these are the processes or systems that have been put in place for one to attain fairness in getting their rights heard or resolving their disputes in a society. Yes, and administration of justice actually has two chains.
Yes.
We'll have the criminal chain of administration of justice and the civil chain of administration of justice.
Okay.
Yes. So I know that most times people will hear criminal and then they're like, oh, and people are quick to understand what criminal is. But civil, on the other hand, people may not understand it fully what civil means.
Yes.
So let's start with a simpler one, then we get to the complex one.
Okay.
Criminal, here we are trying to say that what is the procedure when someone has committed an offense? What is an offense? An offense must be prescribed for by the law. We know the Constitution is the supreme law of Uganda, but we have laws that are specifically tailored to define what an offense is, create the ingredients and the punishment. For example, the Penal Code Act, Cap 123. It is the main law that provides for the offenses. While civil law or the civil chain of administration of justice is where someone has an obligation or they feel they have an obligation which has been breached. Most times we see civil laws in things to do with employment law, land justice, and usually once the obligation has been breached, the punishment may not be the same as the criminal punishment. For it, most times it will either be you're entitled to damages or compensation, while for criminal, the punishment is either sentence or community service and so many others. Yes.
For the purposes of today's topic, what are we talking about? The criminal chain or the civil chain?
So for the purposes of our viewer today out there, we are going to talk about the criminal chain of administration of justice. What are the JLOS institutions that are in the criminal chain of administration of justice? And when we say criminal chain, we are trying to say that these institutions don't work independently, but they work hand in hand together to be able to ensure that administration of justice is attained at the end of the day. And I'm going to list them down just that we are home. We're going to start with the Judicial Service Commission because we are the people's bridge to justice. But also we have other institutions such as the judiciary. And I know so many people most times confuse the Judiciary and Judicial Service Commission. Most will call it Judiciary Commission. It is Judicial Service Commission, while the other is the Judiciary. We'll talk about institutions like the Office of the DPP. We'll talk about institutions like Ministry of Internal Affairs, Uganda Police Force, Uganda Prison Services, and other institutions that will be able to unpack for the viewer out there. Yes.
So we are home. Now tell us about the Judicial Service Commission.
So the Judicial Service Commission in itself, we earlier said that JLOS institutions are all government aided institutions. So it is an institution created by the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. And it is mandated to advise the President on the appointment of judicial officers, right from the Registrar of the High Court until the Chief Justice. Not only does it advise the President, but it also goes ahead and has the mandate to appoint judicial officers from the position of the Chief Magistrate and downwards to the Magistrate Grade 1. And also the staff that support the judicial officers in conducting their day-to-day work. How is this able, or how is this mandate linked to administration of justice in the criminal chain of justice? We see that the judiciary, at the end of the day, or we see that in a society, there will always be conflict. Naturally, as human beings, we cannot run away from crime. That is why society has clearly set laws to protect and prevent crime, but there is always crime. And where there is crime, there is need for an independent party to give a fair hearing to both the victim, the accused, or the complainant, and be able to determine who is wrong or who has committed the offense. So without the judicial officers, then that means there would be no fair hearing to determine who has committed wrong. So this is where judicial service comes in. It appoints and advises the President on appointment of judicial officers who at the end will conduct the principle of fair hearing, will hear the accused, the victim, before an independent and impartial court, and then be able to decide and decide on whether the person who is accused actually indeed committed an offense or not. And in addition, Judicial Service Commission promotes public awareness on legal topics on law and administration of justice. Yes, in that way, people are aware of the offenses so that it can prevent continuous occurring of certain offenses or crimes. And yes, in that way, Judicial Service Commission as an institution supports in attaining administration of justice. Yes, and like we had said, so we already linked it to the judiciary. The judiciary is there because the Judicial Service Commission appoints judicial officers. The two are two independent bodies. But how the judiciary comes into place as an institution under JLOS is that one, under the principle of the presumption of innocence. We know that in criminal cases, everyone is presumed to be innocent until proved guilty. And the judiciary is the only institution that has the mandate to hear and determine, adjudicate over matters and determine whether the person is innocent or guilty. Yes.
So tell us, how does the Judicial Service Commission then now be linked to the judiciary?
Yes, thank you so much. So the judiciary, while we know that in society, we cannot run away from the fact that there will always be crime. And where there is crime, everyone presumes or everyone claims that they are innocent. Also, the Constitution provides for the principle of the presumption of innocence, that everyone shall be presumed innocent until proved guilty. Yes, and the judiciary is the only institution that is mandated with that power to hear, adjudicate matters, and determine whether a person is guilty or innocent. And when they are guilty, they will order the appropriate punishment, which may include community service or which may include sentencing.
Yes.
But the Judicial Service Commission and Judiciary will not just work alone. They also have other key partners.
Yes.
This is where we see the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions coming in. So who are these people? We know most people refer them as DPP, others refer to them as state, but basically, and actually the Office of the DPP has its offices in all districts in this country. So these are state lawyers. They represent the government. They institute criminal proceedings. They also conduct the same criminal proceedings. So now the Office of the DPP has to work hand in hand with the judiciary. The Office of the DPP will institute a criminal proceeding before the court, which is the judiciary. And once they've instituted a file or a proceeding before the court, then that's when court determines whether this person is innocent or guilty. But also we know that the DPP has to prove beyond reasonable doubt by the evidence they bring on board. So now this is where we see, now who brings the evidence? We see the Uganda Police Force coming in.
Yes.
The Uganda Police Force has expertise in conducting investigations and calling witnesses. Yes, so the Office of the Uganda Police Force will work hand in hand with the Office of the DPP.
Yes.
So we see that there is a chain right from Judicial Service Commission to the Judiciary to the Office of the DPP and now to Uganda Police Force, who conduct investigations, and if they have enough evidence, they transfer the file to the Office of the DPP, who then presents the same to the courts. Yes, I know so many people out there always complain that the file was taken to the Office of the DPP and it was brought back to the police. It's not like there is any bribe or anything, but then that means that probably there is no sufficient evidence. So the Office of the DPP will work again hand in hand with the Uganda Police Force to ensure that the Uganda Police Force goes back and collects more evidence, additional information, which is relevant for the Office of the DPP to table before courts of law, who will determine whether actually this case has merit or no merit, and whether the accused is actually guilty or innocent. But we know that the police, usually when there is a suspect, the police will detain the suspects. But there is a 48-hour rule of not detaining beyond the 48 hours. That is why usually when someone has been detained in police custody, the police works so hard with the Office of the DPP to make sure that the person is not in custody for more than 48 hours. They are brought before court and thereafter they are transferred to the prisons. Now we see Uganda Prisons Services coming into place.
So now we have seen the Uganda Police Force. Now you are introducing a new element, the Uganda Prison Services. And how does all that help in the administration of justice?
Yes, so now the Uganda Prison Services will provide safe custody for one, suspects who on trial awaiting hearing of their cases. But also it will detain, or it will provide safe custody for convicts or for persons who have been convicted. What do we mean by persons who have been convicted? Persons who have appeared before court, or the proceedings have been done and court has made a decision or determined and said this person is actually guilty. But not only does the Uganda Prison Services provide safe custody or detain people, it also provides rehabilitation services or support. I know out there sometimes people are detained for their safety. Maybe they have issues, maybe they are protecting them from mob justice. So the prison services provides rehabilitation services or programs such as farming, such as farming, which enable these people to go back to the community and contribute positively, other than being in the community and they are a nuisance. But we see that whether Uganda Prisons Services detains persons who are awaiting trial, we know that also we are not talking about, we've only talked about adults or a human being. How about when children are in conflict with law? What happens to such a person? Because such a person also needs to be brought before court. What happens to them? While the adults will be taken, adults or people above 18 years will be taken to the Uganda Prison Services, children will be taken to remand homes. So this is where we see Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development come into place. We know that in Uganda, as a country, we have ratified different international conventions, especially on children's rights. Even our own primary law on children's rights, which is the Children's Act, provides that a child shall not be detained with an adult. Therefore, Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development comes into place as another institution under the JLOS to support and make sure that administration of justice is indeed attained for the child, that they are actually not detained in prisons, but indeed they are detained in remand homes, where they are equally given programs to help them change their mindset and make them better persons, so that once they have served their time period, once they go out there, they are better people to the society and contribute positively. Equally, I know that prisons, we know that the only punishment we have in Uganda is imprisonment. But we also have another punishment which is called community service. What happens, or what is community service? This is an order given by court where someone is ordered to work in a public institution gazetted by court or gazetted by the laws of Uganda, and they work there for a certain period of time without pay until when the time is done and they go back to the society. So in that circumstance, when someone has been ordered to perform a community service or given a community service order, we see Ministry of Internal Affairs come into place. I know we all know that Ministry of Internal Affairs is mainly for passports, but also things like community service orders are solely the responsibility of Ministry of Internal Affairs. It will be responsible for supervising persons who have been ordered or given community service orders. Yes.
So where does this chain take us?
Well, at the end of the day, while we see that most of us are looking at it from the part of court and the state, who are all in government, how about the accused person? We are looking at it from the victim side.
Yes.
How about the accused person? What happens when someone has been suspected and brought before court, where they hence become an accused person and they do not have legal representation? We see Uganda Law Society come into place. And recently, we were able to actually witness that Uganda Law Society was representing most of the people that were detained for the protests.
Yes.
So Uganda Law Society comes in to offer pro bono services. What do I mean by pro bono services? Free services. But one must prove that they are incapable of hiring a lawyer.
Yes.
But also, Uganda Law Society provides a role of advocates where lawyers for state brief can be determined from or can be chosen from. What do we mean by lawyers on state brief? In capital offenses, legal representation is one of the ways through which administration of justice is seen to be done. Capital offenses, we are talking about offenses like murder, aggravated robbery. You must have legal representation. But this accused person cannot actually afford a lawyer. So the state must ensure that this person is represented. While the state is represented by the office of the DPP, the accused must be represented by a lawyer, who most times these lawyers are members of Uganda Law Society. But also now, whereas the Uganda Law Society provides for these lawyers or maintains or regulates the lawyers, once someone has disciplinary issues with this lawyer or any lawyer, you can report to Uganda Law Council, which is under Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. So we see Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, even while they are mainly state attorneys representing the government in civil matters, but even in the criminal chain of administration of justice, they come in that from that angle. But we also see the Office of the Attorney General. The Office of the Attorney General is mandated to prepare a list of names who are forwarded to the president or advises the president on which persons who have been convicted and are in prison are eligible for the prerogative of mercy. Yes. So we see that Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs also comes in as another institution that will be able to support in attaining administration of justice in the criminal chain. Yes.
So now we have seen the chain. We have seen the judicial officers be appointed. We have seen the officers that help gather evidence. But now we have also introduced the component of lawyers. But who trains these lawyers? How do they come into this equation?
Yes. Now, again, thank you for that question. We see that if all these people, if they didn't have the legal knowledge, then would not be able to diligently and effectively serve in these positions. This is where Law Development Center comes in, because Law Development Center will support in educating all these persons so they are qualified. And I know lately there are so many people who masquerade around as lawyers, no, you must ensure that before you deal with any lawyer, this person has gone through Law Development Center, attained a practicing certificate given by the Law Council, so that in a way, you see that each institution is supporting the other and is playing their role as a key partner in administration of justice in the criminal chain.
Thank you so much, Patra, for coming today. Thank you for that informative discussion that we have had. I hope today our viewers will been able to learn a thing or two about the justice, law and order sector. Remember that we have said it's an umbrella that has all these institutions that help in the rendering of administration of justice, as she has discussed for us today. Do you have any topic you would like us to talk about, any awareness you would like us to discuss on our channel? Please put it in the comment section. Also, do you have any complaint or suggestions about our courts? Also, you can put in the comment section, or there will be lines on the screen that will share our address and our contacts. Please do reach for us. We would like to hear from you. Also, don't forget to subscribe, to like and share this information. It could help a person or two. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm still Lonanka Mwesiga. Until next time. Thank you. Bye.